Welcome to RCTECH. Today I'm going to cover about the overview of Informatica PowerCenter. In that, I'm going to show you what is an architecture diagram, what terminology that's being used, and what kind of tools, what's a mapping, and what's a transformation, sessions, workflows, and workflow monitor. So this is the course that I'm going to cover for under the Informatica PowerCenter. It has a very comprehensive curriculum. So today I'm going to take an introduction about the Informatica PowerCenter. This is the Informatica platform architecture. It has, you see the items in the blue box and items on the yellow box. Earlier version than 9.x, we don't have the items on the yellow box, right? So the Informatica PowerCenter is primarily an ETL tool. ETL meaning extraction. E stands for extraction, T for transformation, L for loading. It grabs the data from any source system, massage the data, make changes to the data, and loads into the Informatica set target tables, any tables. It could be an Oracle tables or SQL Server table or even a flat files. It loads the data into that. So the Informatica PowerCenter serves as an ETL tool. So it's very extensive, very robust, and also very powerful tool. And after 9.x, Informatica introduced the items on the yellow box, which is for the IDQ platform, which is Informatica Data Quality Platform. The items under the blue box is for the Informatica PowerCenter platform, but both of them are Informatica platform, right? So if you look at the Informatica PowerCenter on the Informatica Data Quality, which is in the yellow box, the architecture almost similar. There is no big difference, right? But it's a completely different, and it has its own purpose. The metadata of the tool, in overall metadata of the tool, it stores in an Oracle table or a SQL Server table or relational databases table. There are some certain database not being supported, but or otherwise most of the tables being databases being supported by Informatica. So while we do the installation of Informatica PowerCenter, it asks you the databases where it stores the metadata, and that's what this little yellow box is. And the repository service is the central hub for the repository schema and for other the tools like Workflow Manager, Mapping Designer, Metadata Manager. And the integration service is the point of contact for Workflow Manager and the admin console, and also the repository services. It also interacts with the Metadata Manager service for the usage of the tool. When you want to execute a mapping, you connect to the items on the right hand side workflow manager. The workflow manager, when you execute a mapping, it calls the integration service and tries to authenticate it and goes into the repository service. The repository service connects to repository and checks that okay, you're good to go, then it executes. So the mapping designer on the right hand side, you see right below the workflow manager, it's for creating or developing mappings or developing transformations. So that's basically connecting to the repository directly. So it won't help you to execute a mapping, but it helps you develop the mapping. So let's take a look at what Informatica Mapping Designer is from the tool perspective. So this is a Informatica PowerCenter Designer. After when you log into the service, it invokes different folders. You see the different folders. These are all the project folders that's stored in the repository schema. You see it here, right? It is getting the it's connecting the you are connecting from the mapping designer. It connects to repository service. It grabs the information from the repository, and that's what you are seeing here. So under every project folder, you see bunch of folders like subfolders like business components, sources, targets, cubes, dimensions, transformation, maplets, and mapping. You know, if you look at the mappings, under the mapping there are a bunch of mapping. I'm showing here just a sample mapping M customer sales. This is the sample mapping that displays, right? As I said that Informatica is an ETL tool. It brings the records from the source. The one in the left hand side you see is the source table, and one in the right hand side is the target tables, one in the purple color, right? So you are at this stage, by looking at this diagram, I can see, oh, it is bringing data from customer, orders, order details, and any item from here to this one is a data massaging area, where we collect the data from the source tables, and based on your business requirements, you make changes to the data from the tables on the fly, and loads into the appropriate target tables. So this is a one complete mapping that's been developed under the Informatica Mapping Designer, and that's what this tool is about, Mapping Designer. That connects to repository service, that goes into repository, brings the information. It also, you create mappings, develop transformation, and all the it's a complete IDE. And the workflow manager is basically, this is the workflow manager. Again, when you log in, it asks you, you need to configure which repository that you should connect to. The repo underscore svc is nothing but our repository. After you connect, it brings all the folders and projects. We call this as a folder is a project. So under every project, we have a bunch of sessions, workflows, and everything. So what is a workflow session? And you see the mapping that we created, right, under um, M underscore customer sales under the data integration project folder. Under that data integration project folder, you have the customer. Let me check whether it is. Yeah, it's a customer sales. So the customer sales here, when we move it, we name it as a. I'm going to the tools workflow designer. So what it's basically, it does. I'm moving this. So this is the workflow. WF underscore M underscore customer orders is basically a workflow, meaning how I should execute that mapping which I developed in the PowerCenter designer. So this workflow designer, it's basically you define, okay, I'm the small little box called SM customer sales, which is nothing but the session. If I double click the session, it basically tells you what is the mapping name. The mapping name is M customer sales, and this is what we created here, M customer sales. We are making this in this area in the right hand side. It's basically you are preparing a mapping to execute on any platform. So basically you need to define that. Once after you develop a mapping, you need to prepare the mapping for the execution. So we call this start is a task, right? Then after the start is connecting to, this is called the link between the start to. This is one flow of how the mapping should execute. So after the start, we are calling that SM customer sales is basically a session. If we call it a session, when we call it as a mapping in the mapping designer, but we call it as a session in the workflow manager, right? And from here, I'm executing. Once it is done, it sends you an email after the successful completion to an appropriate community of people. Okay, the mapping is done, then nothing to worry about it. But if there is a failure in the mapping, it sends an email to the same set of people or a different set of people to mitigate what would be the problem. So the mapping Informatica PowerCenter workflow manager is nothing but, this is the place, is nothing but to execute or preparing a mapping for the execution. And if the workflow monitor, which I have not specified here, the workflow monitor is another component you can be invoked. You see this is the workflow monitor. After I execute it, right? When let's say, let's take a look at, I'm going to right click that start and say start workflow from the task. So I'm saying here, when I go to the monitor, you see this. This is basically, it tells you, oh, this W of customer orders is being executed, and the workflow which calls this session and the decision, everything is executed, meaning this is the mapping has been executed from the Informatica workflow manager. And the monitor, it's to see the status of the execution. So this is the overall architecture of the Informatica PowerCenter. We covered the integration service, a repository service, workflow manager, workflow monitor, mapping designer, and metadata manager. And the metadata manager we haven't covered. Metadata manager is another tool within the Informatica platform that serves a completely different purpose. Meaning, if you have seen my existing application like Data IQ, I have given a detailed information about what a metadata manager is. Metadata is basically about data about data. So it stores information about your data or about your project information, what the project is, nothing but. So we will cover, it is a completely different tool set. On the purpose of this tool set is completely different, and we need to elaborate, takes time to elaborate the detail for you to understand adults. But for this overview, I don't think it is not necessary. This one Informatica platform, excuse me, one in the yellow color is for the IDQ, as I said earlier. It's Informatica Data Quality Platform. And the blue is nothing but Informatica PowerCenter platform. The Informatica Data Quality, it has an analyst service, model repository service, data integration service. Within the data integration service, we have, after that, we have profiling service, mapping service, SQL service, Informatica Analyst, and Informatica Developer. These are all the GUI which is developed using Eclipse. It's an Eclipse based GUI. This is a hotlines, right? And the Informatica Analyst, again, it connects to Analyst service. On our upcoming session, this is purely for the data quality platform. So we'll cover in detail about what an analyst service is, Informatica Developer, how it's been integrated, or what is the interoperability between a Power Center. So this is the overall platform architecture for the Informatica. And thanks for watching this video. And I will see you soon on the next upcoming classes, which is the ETL fundamentals. Talk to you soon. Take care.